We respect the self-determination of the people of Greenland, but my argument again to them is I think that you'd be a lot better coming under the United States security umbrella than you have been under Denmark's security umbrella.
Fred criticized Vance's humiliating trip to Greenland, saying just disgusting behavior by the worst VP in modern history.
Breaking news, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. That's a little lesson in this breaking story for Donald Trump and today, JD Vance.
This is not how you speak to your close allies.
JD Vance, you're out of line, buddy. You're completely out of line. Stop bullying Greenland. Don't bully Greenland. Mind your business.
He's not welcome to Greenland and his administration because he wants to buy us. I am a human. Humans are not for sale.
You ever walk into a room thinking you're about to change lives and instead you end up being the story? Yeah, Vice President JD Vance knows that feeling now. All too well. So picture this. JD Vance, the guy who's been going around dragging Europe like it owes him money, decided to take a quick freedom crusade to, wait for it, Greenland. Yep, Greenland. Because apparently, when you've already ticked off France, Germany, and the European Union, the next logical stop is an icy semi-autonomous island of 56,000 people who literally did not invite you. Now, Vance rolls up with his wife, the second lady who, bless her, probably just wanted to see some snow dogs and maybe take a cute picture for Instagram. But, oh no. No fanfare. No little Greenlandic girls waving flags. No elders performing traditional dances, not even a Welcome to Nuuk banner. You know who greeted them instead? U.S. troops. Our own troops, at an outpost whose main job is to track long-range missile threats.
Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. That has to change. And because it hasn't changed, this is why President Trump's policy in Greenland is what it is. We respect the self-determination of the people of Greenland, but my argument again to them is I think that you'd be a lot better coming under the United States security umbrella than you have been under Denmark's security umbrella. Because what Denmark's security umbrella has meant is effectively they've passed it all off to brave Americans and hoped that we would pick up the tab. We're simply saying to the people of Greenland, when the president says we've got to have Greenland, he's saying this island is not safe. A lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people are making a play. We know that America cares about the security of this island for the sake of the people of Greenland, but also for the sake of the national security interests of the United States of America. So our message is very simple. Yes, the people of Greenland are going to have self-determination. We hope that they choose to partner with the United States because we're the only nation on earth that will respect their sovereignty and respect their security, because their security is very much our security, as these brave Americans show.
Breaking news, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. That's a little lesson in this breaking story for Donald Trump and today, JD Vance. Oh my goodness, you got to understand, in my entire lifetime, I have never actually seen the level of retribution to this administration as we are seeing in less than 90 days. I've even seen world leaders welcome leaders from the U.S. in times of the Cold War and strained relationships, much less a country from NATO. And in this breaking story, you will not believe what Greenland just did. But let me show you, before we get there, here's the lovely, fun part that led up to this breaking story, is how it seemed just a couple of days ago for Usha and JD Vance. Take a look at this.
Vice President JD Vance joining a ever more high-profile trip to Greenland as President Trump says the U.S. should take that territory away from Denmark, who happens to be a NATO ally of ours. Vance says he wants to go on what was meant to be initially a trip for his wife Usha, one of their children, and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Ed O'Keefe joins us again from the White House. Ed, this is really a talker. Why the change of plans?
Well, Tony, the vice president says it's all about global security. He made the announcement in an online video saying he would travel to a U.S. military base on Greenland's northwest coast. Earlier this week, it was announced that his wife, the Second Lady, Usha Vance, and one of their 3 children plan to visit historic sites and attend a dog sled race. Greenland's outgoing prime minister called those plans and a potential visit by other U.S. officials, quote, highly aggressive. Now, the vice president says there was so much excitement surrounding his wife's trip, he didn't want her to have all that fun by herself. The trip makes him the highest-ranking American official to visit since President Trump suggested he wants to bring Greenland, a self-governing territory of Denmark, under U.S. control. In his video message, Vance said leaders in the U.S. and Denmark have, quote, ignored Greenland for far too long and said it's bad for the security of the world. The vice president's visit scheduled for Friday, and by refocusing the trip, we'll see if it does anything to tamp down the controversy.
Oh, yes, my goodness, just like going to Hawaii. The entire country had all the lays out and the fire torches, and they were ready to throw a big old tiki Greenland. Never mind. We changed our mind.
I mean, when the warmest smile you get is from a guy named Chuck holding a radar manual, that's when you know the vibe is off. But wait, it gets better because JD didn't just quietly observe the icebergs and head home. Nope. He used the trip to basically throw shade at Denmark, Greenland's official governing nation, Denmark. Like the country that's never beefed with anyone, the land of Legos, pastries, and aggressively polite people. Vance declared, essentially, that Denmark doesn't take Greenland's security seriously enough, that America should play a bigger role in protecting it, which to a Dane is kind of like a house guest walking into your home, looking around and saying, you know, I think your neighbor should redecorate this place. And unsurprisingly, Denmark clapped back hard. Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen gave the diplomatic version of, boy, if you don't sit your freedom hawking behind down, and reminded Vance that this is not how you talk to your close allies. The subtext was clear. You are not the main character here. Meanwhile, back on the ground in Greenland, things weren't going any smoother. The locals. Oh, they were not having it. Many felt the visit was patronizing, like the U.S. was trying to slide into Greenland's DMs with, hey, you up? Want to be part of the 51st state? And trust me, when Greenlanders cancel your dog sledding demo, that's not just a scheduling issue, that's diplomatic shade on ice.
So we have now gotten to the point where JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States, is attacking Midas Touch contributors. Let me explain. So JD Vance was apparently searching his name on Twitter for what people were saying about him when he saw a comment by Midas Touch contributor Fred Wellman. If you don't know, Fred Wellman is an Army vet and he hosts the show On Democracy with FP Wellman on the Midas Touch network. Fred criticized Vance's humiliating trip to Greenland, saying just disgusting behavior by the worst VP in modern history. Fred was responding to this clip of JD Vance where he was criticizing Denmark in his attempt to justify why the United States should be allowed to annex Greenland. So Vance responds to Fred, these people want to turn Europe into a permanent protectorate. The problem, if it was ever a good idea, it is simply not sustainable with $2 trillion in annual deficits. I want to reiterate again that Fred did not tag JD Vance. He was not responding to a JD Vance tweet. He was simply responding to a clip of JD Vance. So JD Vance was very sadly searching his name on Twitter to find this. So Fred clapped back, writing, we are the most powerful nation on earth, the shining city on the hill, the necessary nation, and the vice president is spending his time trying to troll a random citizen who criticized them? It wasn't even a reply to him. What a pathetic, weird little man. Fred said it best, and the Trump regime is clearly terrified of the Midas Touch network.
Much is being said these days. Many accusations and many allegations have been made. And of course, we are open to criticism. But let me be completely honest. We do not appreciate the tone in which is being delivered. This is not how you speak to your close allies. And I still consider Denmark and the United States to be close allies. We respect that the United States needs a greater military presence in Greenland, as Vice President Vance mentioned this evening. We, Denmark and Greenland, are very much open to discussing this with you, with an open mind. We still have the defense agreement from 1951. It offers ample opportunity for the United States to have a much stronger military presence in Greenland. If that is what you wish, then let us discuss it.
JD Vance, you're out of line, buddy. You're completely out of line. Stop bullying Greenland. Don't bully Greenland. Mind your business. You're really making bad choices here, buddy. I don't know who you're working for, but you're definitely not working for the American people because we do not agree with what you're doing. First of all, you ran on Make America Great Again. Are we making Greenland great again? We're not. You guys are making a lot of bad choices and you're pissing off a lot of Americans. And let's not get distracted about what you're doing with Social Security. Let's go. And Brad, Sherman, if you ever want to say anything, by all means, speak up. Otherwise, move out of the way. Let's go.
Now, this whole fiasco has stirred up some old tensions. You might remember because the internet definitely does. Back in 2019, when Trump floated the idea of buying Greenland like it was a Costco item, Denmark responded with something like, "Greenland's not for sale?" Also, what? So yeah, this visit sort of reeked of that same energy, like the US is still stuck in this fantasy football league where they think they can draft Greenland without anyone noticing. Of course, this all forced Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen to announce an emergency visit to Greenland. You know, just to remind everyone that, yes, Denmark and Greenland are still cool. And no, they're not about to trade sovereignty for freedom fries and a souvenir MAGA hat. But here's the thing. Beneath all this awkwardness and ice-cold diplomacy is a very real story about geopolitics. Greenland sits on an incredibly strategic piece of Earth. It's basically a floating aircraft carrier with minerals, energy resources, and access to the Arctic. China, Russia, the US, every major power wants a piece of it. So while JD Vance's Freedom Tour may have been tone-deaf, the stakes are real. That said, the execution, not great. It's one thing to show up offering friendship. It's another to show up uninvited, act like you know what's best for the house, then start telling the family to dump their landlord.
Because there were two conceits that our leadership class had when it came to globalization. The first is assuming that we can separate the making of things from the design of things. The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain while the poor countries made the simpler things. You would open an iPhone box and it would say designed in Cupertino, California. Now the implication, of course, is that it would be manufactured in Shenzhen or somewhere else. And yeah, some people might lose their jobs in manufacturing, but they could learn to design, or to use a very popular phrase, learn to code. But I think we got it wrong. It turns out that the geographies that do the manufacturing get awfully good at the designing of things. There are network effects, as you all well understand. The firms that design products work with firms that manufacture. They share intellectual property, they share best practices, and they even sometimes share critical employees. Now, we assume that other nations would always trail us in the value chain, but it turns out that as they got better at the low end of the value chain, they also started catching up on the higher end. We were squeezed from both ends. Now, that was the first conceit of globalization. I think the second is that cheap labor is fundamentally a crutch, and it's a crutch that inhibits innovation. I might even say that it's a drug that too many American firms got addicted to. Now, if you can make a product more cheaply, it's far too easy to do that rather than to innovate. Guys, how we doing? Please, at ease. At ease. Good Lord, sit down and eat. Sit down and eat. Don't let the Vice President stop you guys from getting your chow here. How we doing? It's cold as here. Nobody told me. Well, thank you all for everything you do, and thanks for having us. So please sit down, guys. Please, please. I want you to eat your food. Usha and I are thrilled to be here. It's a really beautiful flight, actually. You fly over some pretty cool spots. I've never been to Greenland. Apparently, I'm the first vice president to ever visit Greenland, so that's a pretty cool thing. But we're looking forward to hanging out and getting to know you guys and understanding what you do. So I think what do we have? So we're gonna talk to the command and some of the guardians about what exactly the base does and all the important ways it contributes to national security. We're going to get a briefing, of course, about what you guys do every day. And then we're going to talk just about, as you've heard, we have some interest in Greenland from the Trump administration. So we're going to talk a little bit about that with our friends in the media. But I just want to say thank you all. Thanks for having us, and thanks for being here. Thanks for doing what you do. The colonel told me that this is a one-year unaccompanied duty station. When we were flying in, we were wondering whether you guys were allowed to bring your families here. So I know it's a lot of sacrifice to spend a year away from your families, but the mission is really important.
So, what now? Will Greenland drift further from Denmark? Will the US keep poking at this icy bear until it bites back? Or will someone finally realize that diplomacy isn't about walking in like a cowboy? It's about listening, understanding, and sometimes just showing up with cookies instead of commentary? What do you think? Is the US protecting its interests or just making a cold situation colder? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if you love stories where politics meets plot twists, power plays, and a little public embarrassment, make sure to like this video and subscribe. We've got more stories coming. And trust me, the next one might just defrost everything you thought you knew.